Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to share with you some interesting facts today about your liver. So we're going to dive into Anthony William and his book, Liver Rescue. So today I really want to discuss one of your most important organs, and the liver is just that. So let me get started here with the slides. You see those okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. So as we go through today, by the end of this presentation, you should learn about the liver function, how it affects the liver, how fat affects the liver, and blood sugar, how it's balanced and it relates to the liver, how your liver really protects you, what dirty blood syndrome is about, what some of the causes of a fatty liver, and then really what causes weight gain. So it should be pretty interesting. So I just wanted to start out by talking about some basic anatomy. You know, the liver is located in the upper right-hand portion of your abdominal cavity, and it's just beneath the diaphragm. It sits on top of the kidney, the right kidney, the stomach, the intestines, and it's really a healthy liver is this dark reddish brown organ, and obviously has multiple functions. It's a ton of different functions that it takes. So the truth is, your liver is really your best friend. It's the best friend that you never knew you had, and it's performing over 2,000 critical functions. It's working hard for you both day and night. It doesn't stop. So it's a combination of a storehouse, it's a filter, it's a processing center, it's basically your garbage service, and a whole bunch more. So it can shield you, it protects you, it defends you from every single angle, and it has a unique immune system as well. So your liver is the only organ in your body that's truly adaptogenic. So it's nonstop, it's switching job responsibilities, and it's hyper fast in performing these different, chemical functions. Like if you get cold, your liver is going to create heat to warm you up. If you're hot, it will actually take on the heat to cool you down. If you're running a marathon, your liver is going to release a little bit of the stored glucose to help you cross that finish line. If you drink too much water and dilute your blood composition, your liver will actually absorb some of that excess water like a sponge. If you breathe in cigarette smoke, your liver will absorb the smoke's chemicals and keep them from your bloodstream. If you eat a 12-ounce steak and fries, or even a chocolate cake, your liver will process and break down all those denatured omega-6 and trans fatty acids to help protect you. So if you're swimming in the ocean and this rogue wave catches you and your liver is going to release its storage banks of adrenaline, it actually stores some adrenaline from the adrenal glands as well. This is going to give you that superhuman strength to really give you a chance at saving your life. Your liver is also a memory bank, and it's unique in the sense that your liver is like your third brain. Alongside the body's second brain, you could say, is the thyroid gland, but it's a memory organ in its own right, and it's equal to the brain and its actual brain power. And every Friday, if you go out with your friends and you have pizza, your liver remembers that you splurge on that particular day and actually starts to prepare ahead of time. So it loves having a creature of habit, but it's also got this stored memory bank. So say you change your diet and you don't have that routine, but then all of a sudden you go back to it, or it remembers that and knows exactly what it needs to do in order to break down that food or the fat that you ingested. So your liver is this processing center for virtually anything that your body comes into contact with. And it's processing fat is actually one of its main jobs. Whenever you eat fat, your liver releases bile to break it down and deliver the fat to your body as an energy source. So different amounts of these complex compositions of bile are needed in order to really break down these different levels of fat. So your liver has to draw on its own power of memory to adapt and prepare and respond to your different fat intake with every meal. So keep in mind when your bile raises, it helps you in that moment, though it's not what you want to happen repeatedly in the long run. It's the beginning of weakening a liver. If you could already be challenged by other troublemakers, if you've got other toxins and poisons and pathogens that are going on in your body, it just slowly starts to wear down on your liver. So the liver's favorite bile composition is really if you have a diet that's composed of 15% fat or less. And obviously that fat coming from all healthy sources, such as avocados and nuts and seeds and olives, olive oil, coconut meat, the coconut milk, some of the good fishes and wild game. Ideally, the rest of someone's diet includes this ample fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, potatoes, squash, millet, legumes, things along those lines. So in this mode, your liver has the ability to create the necessary bile composition in a normal state without going into panic mode. So 15% fat or less is ideal for the liver. Another major reason why your liver is committed to doing this work is to protect your pancreas. So while your liver is the workhorse, your pancreas is like a delicate flower. One of the pancreas's functions is to produce the hormone insulin, which you guys probably are aware, which regulates blood sugar. Your liver tries to protect the body from this excess fat. Otherwise, the pancreas takes all the heat. It's forced to produce more and more insulin over time, eventually becoming erratic, and its hormone production maybe even losing its ability to produce insulin altogether. So without insulin, we end up with diabetes. So your liver works hard to break down and dilute the fats and distribute them as fast as it can to keep the lingering fat out of the bloodstream so that it won't get, in the way of organ function or nervous system, or really directly hinder the pancreas, which leads to diabetes. So the more fat that's hanging around the bloodstream, the organs, the digestive tract, even into the lymph fluid, the more insulin is needed to try and force the sugar through and around these fat saturation so that it can either enter the cells or the body can actually function with it. So trying to get this, and glucose is the life-sustaining, substance. Trying to get this into the organs, the muscles, the nerves, where we need it, it meets this resistance from the excess fat. And that's where we get the term insulin resistance, where it's getting more and more difficult to get the fat or get the sugar into where it's needed. So it's not healthy carbohydrates that are really the problem. They're only kind of revealing the problem, or you could say even a symptom of the problem. They reveal when high fat is really the problem that caused everything. So eating natural healthy sugars and carbohydrates, they're not the enemy. It's the excess fat that really becomes the problem. So let's look at blood sugar balance. If your liver glucose storage is a huge piece of protecting us from conditions like diabetes. If for some reason you don't eat regularly, your liver will swoop in and release stores of glucose. It's got your back. So you don't have to be too hypoglycemic with your blood sugar being low and have the pancreas and your adrenals basically crash. Your liver stores most of the glucose as glycogen and in these small pockets of tissue around the outside of the liver. So this storage system also is how the liver stores away, concentrations of other nutrients as well as hormones. So all of these biochemical elements and other organic compounds. So as we need them, the liver breaks down the glycogen back into glucose. And the liver also keeps it readily available glucose if it really needs it in an emergency that's not stored as glycogen, so they can store it release it even faster. So blood sugar is how we function. The human body depends on it. Blood sugar drops, if it happened all the time, it's not ideal for the liver, but it's that liver's role to make sure that the blood sugar is maintained. So true blood sugar support is all about a well-functioning liver and a well-stocked, well-prepared liver that's full of glucose and glycogen. So you can imagine the liver's favorite fuel is glucose. Glucose isn't solely useful for keeping the blood sugar under control. Your liver needs it too. Without glucose, we can't really cope with any of the pressures of stress. So we need it to maintain healthy muscle, a healthy brain. Obviously, the heart uses it, and it's imperative for the liver function and its ability to support the entire body. Not all sugars are beneficial, like table sugar and high fructose corn syrup, which aren't attached with nutrients really at all, are really a drain on our health. Natural sugars from whole foods, like those we find in fruits and coconut water and honey and sweet potatoes, those sugars, you get from the digestion of these good carbohydrates and are wildly beneficial. It's not only that the nutrients happen to be bonded to this sugar, but the liver needs these nutrients that are surrounded by the sugar, because the sugar helps it really do its job. So the sugar is how the nutrients are propelled throughout the bloodstream. It's how they enter into the organs. And without this sugar, the nutrients really can't drive themselves around. They can't go where they're actually needed. So the fats we eat don't really work this way. The fats we eat don't carry around an antioxidant or a vitamin or some other nutrient that we want to deliver to the body. They're not really this cab or the Uber, so to speak, for nutrients. We really need the sugar to drive the nutrients into the organs and into the tissue. So this doesn't mean that healthy fats don't hold on to nutrients. It's that they don't deliver them the way sugars do. So there are some healthy fats. So it takes work for your liver to really process vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all the good stuff. And all that work generates heat. The more fat and toxins it has to process, the harder it has to work, hotter it gets. So the only way to keep your liver from overheating is with sugar. So along with the right blend of water and mineral salts, electrolytes, give your liver bioavailable glucose in your diet. So from healthy sources, plus having a stockpile of glycogen all the time when it needs it. Your liver can give you energy. It can slow down the aging process. It can even help you shield you from diseases. So let's go into a little more about the vitamins. Just as your liver is meant to store glucose, it's also meant to store away every single vitamin, mineral, and any other nutrient that you can imagine. So if you aren't getting enough of a certain nutrient in your current diet, your body can't draw on its reserves that you've stored away in your liver from an earlier time. It's basically waiting there. Your liver's ability to store these nutrients is vast, and it's organized, and it's really a complicated structure. So it can catalog things by level of importance, and really with the most critical items being most readily available. So it knows how to prioritize those things. A liver in top condition is able to support you with like a whole medicine chest of these nutrient therapies. So we want to get enough of the good stuff. Mainly the liver storing these nutrients that the stomach and the intestines have really converted during digestion into forms that our body can use. So it's our digestive system that's breaking things down and getting them into the bloodstream. And your liver uses processes like methylation to convert like vitamin B12 to a more bioavailable form. So there are some things that the liver has to change the structure of in order for our body to use it even better. So a strong liver is critical, and it's critical to your gut health for reasons beyond just nutrient conversion. It's also about the storage, because the more the liver's storage banks are saturated or even overcrowded with toxins that the liver has collected really to save you, the less room the liver has for all the vitamins and mineral storage. So it's faced with this decision. Do I keep the toxins and keep them contained to protect the body? Or do I let out the poisons so that I can store more vitamins, minerals, and other valuable material that can really help repair the gut and the rest of the body? So as vital as nutrient storage is, saving you from the toxic matter usually wins out. So harmful substances. You've got these things like synthetic pesticides, herbicides, pathogens, molds, plastics, that we talked about, toxic heavy metals. All these other troublemakers have an ionic charge that's really destructive to the cells in our body. It's a charge that makes them magnetically sticky. As these toxins are flowed along in our bloodstream, maybe it's in our lymph fluid, even in our spinal fluid, they create a reckless path of destruction. Really, they're endangering the other nutrients. They're sucking out oxygen. They're even injuring some of our immune cells. So this toxic ionic charge can also injure our red blood cells. As the toxins float towards the liver, they tend to keep the ionic charge. So a healthy liver, when the blood flows through the liver, can discharge that charge. As toxins travel into the liver can neutralize these harmful materials so that they don't carry the same destructive force when they're out floating around in the bloodstream. And the liver also releases a chemical into the bloodstream to disarm troublemakers that have this damaging ionic charge, so that it can actually flow around with the blood as well. So just remember, your body is not only filled with electricity, it is electricity. And it's a huge battery as well. So let's get into more of these troublemakers from a storage standpoint. So the liver's first line of defense is to get toxins out of the body, and it only store them if it's absolutely necessary. So the liver has these storage pockets or places for harmful materials, and the liver drives toxins deeper and deeper into itself, depending on how damaging these items could potentially be. It's closest to the center of the liver, where it likes to push these materials like the petroleum products, the dioxins, the DDT, some of the pesticides, even aspartame and MSG, some of the viruses that are bad with the viral waste matter like neurotoxins and things like that. Some of the pharmaceuticals and even the toxic heavy metals that we talked about, they keep driving those deeper and deeper into the liver. So with the most toxic substances being as deep as they can be, you're able to really go about your life. The liver has this responsibility to make sure that those poisons aren't free floating and able to head to the brain or the heart, where they can really do some extensive damage. So your liver is one of the biggest, busiest organs, and it's got a huge highway of blood flowing through it. So if you're monitoring the blood, it really begins with the liver's immune system. The liver has some unique white blood cells, and these white blood cells are very wise and quick to react at any given moment. They kind of like stand guard at the hepatic portal vein. That's the main entrance to the liver. So they're on the lookout for all kinds of viruses and bacteria. The blood then branches out into smaller vessels and it enters the actual liver itself, where it has the task of the liver lobules and the Kupffer cells actually sort out and distribute the helpful elements while screening out the toxins or the pathogens or anything that's kind of slipped by the guards. It's especially important that your liver do a good job of separating the beneficial from the toxic. So because after it leaves the liver, the blood moves directly to the heart. So before it ever gets to the point of stowing away these troublemakers, the liver is going to have to try and dispose of them as part of this screening and filtration process. So when the liver lets go of toxins, they're released in 3 different places. You've got the colon, where they eliminated through the feces. You've got the kidneys, where you eliminate through the urine. And the last resort is just to let it loose in the bloodstream. And then it becomes a free radical, traveling throughout your entire body. So a truly healthy liver will only send troublemakers through the colon and the urine for elimination. And it isn't until your liver gets burdened that other things start to get released in the blood. So if your liver gets to the point where it's unable to process these unproductive materials that are running through it, there's more and more free radical debris and toxic matter that's going to be released into the bloodstream. And that's going to force the heart to pump harder. And it's almost has to pull the blood up from the liver. And this pulling effect is really what's resulting in high blood pressure. So if your liver is clogged up to the point that it clumps and you even have like biofilms that start to break off in the blood, then you're more likely to develop these heart flutters, because it's like a jelly-like substance and it like gums up your heart valves, and it prevents that smooth flow of blood. So more about the immune system. So more than we know, we rely on the immune defenses that are happen deep beneath the surface of the liver. And this really protects us from illnesses that have a much more lasting impact than just the common cold. The liver doesn't like viruses, bacteria residing in itself. So when it can, it can't stop them from entering. So it does everything it can to keep them contained deep within itself as much as possible. Then it sends in these killer cells. These killer cells they go after the viruses and they try to keep them at bay and guard them, inside this deep internal fabric of the liver. So when a virus starts to get out of control or tries to leave the depths of the liver, there's special white blood cells that are actually there to help destroy it as well. The liver also brings in white blood cells periodically to control any virus that it's living within it. So the liver really has a personalized immune system. It's a network of these white blood cells that protect you from the different pathogens and basically threaten other harmful organs. But they really take control of your health. The liver has the specialized white blood cells at the hepatic vein that I was telling you about earlier, but it also has the hepatic artery and some of the specialized bile ducts where there's white blood cells as well. The liver also delivers lymphocytes, which they kind of patrol the outer region of the liver. So when a liver is too overburdened with toxins, its filtration system gets backed up. And these poisons are also leach into the lymphatic system. So this makes the job of the liver lymphocytes that much harder. So by this point, you started to get the picture on what our liver is up against. You've got viruses, you've got bacteria, you've got mold, you've got different pathogens, waste, toxic heavy metals, radiation, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, solvents, you name it. You've got pollutants, drugs, medications, alcohol, even excess adrenaline from our body, and then the high fat that we take from our diet. So it's more and more we take a toll on our liver as it works to protect us on a daily basis. And then at a certain point, it becomes too much. We haven't learned how to give our liver a break, and it leads to a condition of sluggish liver. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about sluggish liver and how this develops. It's really developing slowly. It's quiet. It's over time. And as a result, it becomes underactive. And it can't protect you as well anymore. Illnesses are able to take advantage. There's different symptoms and conditions that are result of the compromised liver. They aren't, only ones that you would expect. I mean, contrary to popular belief, things like eczema, psoriasis, they arise because of an overloaded liver. Acne is a sign of a liver under stress. This mystery blood pressure, the high blood pressure, different heart palpitations, having type 2 diabetes we talked about earlier, seasonal affective disorders, just having dark under eye circles, or just chronic dehydration. If you have varicose veins, and then obviously weight gain. But even if you start to have little chemical sensitivities or problems with your digestive system, like bloating and constipation. So these all originate with the liver, and they all begin as a sluggish liver that's not able to handle all of this. That's why a lot of, you notice as we get older with time, it's not because of old age, it's because of all this stuff that's just accumulated in our liver, and our liver's getting more and more sluggish. So if we can take care of our liver, we can really, turn things around. So a sluggish liver is just one way to describe when the liver is in this state of overload. I mean, some people call it stagnant, would be another way to describe it. With the toxins, the bugs like pooling inside it, it's unable to keep up this normal flow that would flush out some of these unwelcomed guests. So that feeling when you're under the weather and you really try and push through the day with as much effort as possible, it's true of a sluggish liver too. I mean, the liver works 2 to 3 times as hard to make up for its underactive state. So no matter what, even when it's in its most stagnant, your liver finds a way to push through, and it's going to labor with this intensity. It's taking those hits, and it does put it in a compromised position, but it just means that as the liver becomes saturated with these heavy metals, pathogens, these different debris and poisonous chemicals, it can't help the body as much as it needs to. So it starts to lose the ability to identify, kind of catalog these different things, to absorb the nutrients that it needs to, and really alter the certain products if it has to metabolize them and deliver different biochemical compounds and hormones to your body. It also starts to lose the ability to neutralize those substances that your body doesn't want. So it gets too beaten down to convert these substances as well as usual, and instead ends up storing them, which slows down filtration even more. So you start this vicious cycle. And this vicious cycle turns into toxic, dirty blood. And that's where it can translate into those dark under eye circles or hot flashes. When women go through menopause, hot flashes are not a result of the hormone changes at all. It all has to do with the liver function and not being able to regulate those. So all of this kind of translates into the liver overheating. And the liver also has a sluggish emergency alarm response, so to speak. So if a chemically induced response that it brings on new vital energy, and really break up some of this stagnancy. So the response is a liver spasm. The spasm can result in like a tinge or a tingle or a twitch, maybe even a slight ache, maybe a warmth on that side or heat, sometimes a pulling effect, bloating, or you may not even feel it at all. It just, by doing this, it brings renewal to a certain part of the liver that actually had the spasm and allows the liver to kind of regain some control. It's kind of like shaking itself off and waking up again. So we think of these symptoms as kind of pesky, but really they're signs that our body is turning against us, when in reality they're incredibly helpful clues that something's going wrong deep within in the liver. So how do you test for these things, right? So some people are going to ask, well, what about the liver enzyme test? The two tests that are most common are ALT and AST. And these tests are accurate in the sense that when the results come back and they're abnormal, there's a very good chance that there's something wrong with your liver. Though what it is often remains completely unknown. When considering the test results, though, we need to be aware that testing remains extremely basic. The doctors are only looking for visible signs of an issue. And if the scan comes back and it shows an obvious obstruction or a growth or some scar tissue, they know what they're doing. If it comes back and they don't see that, they're kind of like stuck in a guessing game. And it's elevated enzymes can come and go within a week. It all depends. It's all hinging around what the liver is dealing with at that particular given moment. So when the tests come back elevated, it's an indication to look more carefully at what's going on and take better care of your liver. So almost everyone on the planet is kind of mildly to chronically dehydrated. And the body has this amazing ability to adapt to this. The difference when we are hydrated is really astonishing. If you struggle with a health condition, just getting hydrated could really make a world of difference. So we talk about this in the Wild Fit Challenge, but when you wake up, drink water and drink lemon water first thing in the morning. It's an ideal protocol to protect you and keep you hydrated. Celery juice or a smoothie without any fats in it, also add to this and make a great way to get some more hydration in your body. So even when it's bombarded by troublemakers, your liver takes in whatever little bits of high quality fluid you randomly eat or drink. It lives in wait for these moments, as when you do something good for yourself. So your body stores these molecules of water for times of drought that are coming. So if the liver really the liver's pretty wise. We talked about it being smart like the brain. So in its wisdom, it actually compresses these precious, we call them bioactive water molecules, and it concentrates them. So when you take in liquids, like say you're taking in liquids from soda or black tea or some other things that are dehydrating sources, the transformational water can do its good through the body. So this hydrating, the liver releases a little bit of this bioactive water, hydrating some of the water that you consumed and transforming it, and really allowing you to hydrate other organs as it travels through the rest of your body. So if you're not adequately hydrating, the liver can become so stagnant that the poisons back up into the bloodstream and into the lymphatic system, and this can lead to dirty blood syndrome. When you're dehydrated and your blood is dirtier and dirtier, obviously having a dehydration is going to cause more dirtier blood. So dark circles, or even sunken eyes, if you have these for weeks or months, means that there's a hidden problem, and that hidden problem is the liver problem. So it's true for children too. So if you've got dark under eye circles, it has everything to do with a toxic, dehydrated liver, and it's creating toxic, dirty blood. So when there's the skin under the eyes is really thin, and it's like a window into your blood. So it gets dark because the blood flowing through there is lacking oxygen, and it's filled with poisons. So the more fat and poisons that are in the blood, the less oxygen it can hold. So that's what we're calling, toxic, dirty blood. So just having proper hydration on a daily basis can help you clean up this dirty blood and really improve your liver. So we'll talk about insomnia as well. There are many different causes of insomnia and trouble sleep, the majority of which are from dirty blood. So even if you sleep, issues have another cause, and it's a burdened liver doesn't help. So a few different aspects of dirty blood syndrome affect sleep. As the blood fills with this runoff of toxic heavy metals, they're oxidizing in your system, the virus pollution, the pesticide, the other chemicals, the brain gets saturated with it. And the brain is essential for a peaceful night's rest. So then there's the liver itself. When it's not functioning at an optimal level, it tends to shake. We talked about the spasms earlier. It tends to shake, rumble, roar, whatever it needs to do to kind of wake itself up. So in the middle of the night, your liver wakes up and it starts to work for you, so that in the morning you can cleanse, and it's collected through your urine and your bowel movements, kind of clean house. So as your liver begins to fire up and perform its job, it can go through some subtle spasms, because if the liver, if all that toxic material that it has to deal with, while it's not enough, it may not be a spasm that you actually feel. It may be enough to wake you up, especially in the middle of the night or in the wee hours of the morning. So if you tend to your liver, you get hydrated, you take care of the dirty blood syndrome, you get this basically a better recipe for a better night's sleep, because you're getting all of the toxins out of your brain as well as your liver, and you won't have these little things that tend to wake you up. So our livers are focused on receiving this massive stream of blood, and one that needs cleaning, processing, pampering, the filtering, all those types of things, so that it can do those 2,000 different chemical functions that the liver performs, and hopefully they can take place. And this is where the liver's most important concern comes into play, is how thick is your blood. So the thickness of your blood makes or breaks whether you developed a fatty liver or a pre-fatty liver. What that thickness is harboring determines how fast you develop the fatty liver. So the thicker the blood, the less oxygen that's going to reside in it. The less oxygen in the blood that goes to the liver, the more trouble the liver has breathing. If the thickness is to the point where the blood holds most of these toxic particles, it will make the liver breathing even harder. So sugar gets blamed as the cause of fatty liver. But this mistake exists because sugar is never eaten on its own. So if you look at diets, it's always eaten with some with, or very really close to, before or after, fat. And nearly always it's an unhealthy fat. That's what really causes the health issues. So fats are the problem. It's no one's sitting around eating gobs of sugar on their own. They're mixing it in with their coffee because there's cream in there, or they've got it in a cake or a cookie, or a pastry. It's even in the barbecue sauce that you put on the pork. So it's the combination of these sugar and fat together is why sugar gets blamed for it. But fat thickens the blood, and it resulting in this lower water content, which at some point can become, chronically dehydrated. So imagine if somebody barely drinks water and instead they're consuming, dehydrating coffees or sodas and caffeinated teas. It's thickening the blood even more. So this opens the door, and this is where strokes, heart attack, kidney damage, high blood pressure, the adrenal fatigue, elevated cholesterol, um, as well as some of the central nervous system problems and symptoms. And then pathogens can grow. They can proliferate. They expand with higher blood fat, causing the illness to worsen. So as soon as the fats enter your mouth, the liver instantly starts to eject bile in order to break down those fats as quickly as possible. For one, it wants to disperse the fats to make the passage of your blood easier for the vascular system. So it's like a detergent trying to break things up and make it water soluble, because your majority of your blood is water. So secondly, it wants to thin out the blood before it even gets to the liver. So if the liver can sense that the content in the meal is high, then the bile production becomes even more extreme. And if that happens often over time, the liver starts to weaken. You're just unable to perform that job as well. Just like trying to produce stomach acid, you have to have the components to make the bile, and there's only so much your body can rely on in order to make it happen. So as a result, this rogue, undispersed fat enters your liver on a continuous basis. And because the liver will do anything to protect you and your pancreas, it starts taking on those fats. That's why the liver is the first part of the body to become fatty and heavy. So the pancreas also suffers when the liver is in trouble like this. So taking on the fats due to this high blood fat ratio for years and years, the liver weakens further, and it's unable to disperse the fats like it should. So as this happens, it becomes sluggish. It starts to break down. Its ability to draw in the nutrients out of the blood becomes compromised. And many of these vital nutrients, they end up trapped in our fat blood cells. Our liver packs things away and stores it away in our fat. And if the nutrients are there, they're inaccessible. The toxins, too, become hard for the liver to collect and process out. So many of them get lodged and stored away in the fat. And it gets stored in the liver, around the liver, alongside with those nutrients that we just talked about. So the liver slowly becomes just imprisoned by this fat, developing this pre-fatty and then even a fatty liver. So this fate can be avoided, and it can actually be reversed if we would cut or lower our fat intake, because lowering fat helps the liver get stronger and really improve the bile production. And then, through all of this, one of the liver's sacrifices is weight gain, as it's packaging this fat away. So most of the time, weight gain is really about the liver. While there's two other factors, the thyroid and the adrenals, they can often be involved, but it's important to remember that they both lead back to the liver. So I often look at, people from a weight standpoint and divide them into different categories on how they store their weight, based off of the thyroid and the adrenals and the liver. But really, it's the liver, it all leads back to it, because thyroid issues are viral. Over 95% of the time, it's a chronic viral infection that's really weakens and then burdens the liver. The liver gets damaged by the viral activity and overloaded with some of the waste matter. It can't filter like it should, which then leads eventually to weight gain. So in terms of the adrenals, it's the level of excess adrenaline we're faced with that sets off this chain reaction and leads to weight gain. So in order to shield you from the excess adrenaline, because adrenaline has corrosive effects, the liver sponges up the adrenaline and it goes a step further in actually enlisting old stored hormones as bait to kind of like trap and diffuse the new ones. So a bonded hormone compound kind of results. And if the liver isn't in tip-top shape, it can't flush it all out. Instead, it has to store it. And the liver has too much to store, and the result is usually weight gain. It starts to wrap it up in fat cells. So excess fat cells, this pathogenic waste, the excess adrenaline, the toxins from this oversaturated liver, when it's in this state, the liver can't process fat as well as it's meant to. So the fat begins to collect at a more rapid rate. The liver becomes so congested internally that the fat builds up around the outside of it. And that's where the pre-fatty and the fatty liver develops. So these fat cells begin to accumulate even in the intestinal tract and eventually into the heart and then into the arteries. And you can see where this goes. It raises A1C levels and alongside with the diagnosis of prediabetes. And then the weight around the waist begins to cling, and that's the fat cell side of weight gain. So there's another side to weight gain, and that's usually fluid retention. So if you're carrying around, say, an extra 60 pounds of weight, despite your best efforts, there's a good chance that only 40 pounds of that fat is actual body fat, and the other 20 pounds is fluid that your body's like holding on to. So this is kind of happens with the lymph system. So this undiagnosed lymphedema is really the result of your lymphatic system. It's being forced to act as the filtration system where your liver was meant to be doing this. See, the liver was intended to be the filter for all this macronutrient waste or waste matter, while the lymphatic system is supposed to be more there to process out the micro stuff. When the liver gets strained, the more waste slips by. So as a result, this sludge, is passed off to the lymphatic system, and it gets thicker, and it's not really meant to handle all this. So the lymphatic vessels and the lymph ducts, they get clogged. The lymph fluid can't flow around like it normally would, and it just results in this lymphatic system trying to push out lymph around these blockages and these pockets. So the pockets of lymph fluid start to collect, which actually translates into the fluid retention. So now you can see how important our liver is and why it's kind of the forgotten organ. But many of the chronic disease states that we're dealing with all start with our liver. And we need to do a better job at taking care of our liver. So like I mentioned earlier, the main reference I used for this is the book by Anthony William, Liver Rescue. And if you haven't taken a look at it, I highly recommend it. You should get a copy. But next time we're together, we're going to dive further and talk about how we can support our liver even more. So our next class is going to be on August 17th at 11 a.m. And I can't wait to see you guys there where we can dig more into the liver. Before we go, I just wanted to open things up to you guys, see if you had any questions about your liver function.
Do you have any questions, Sandy? No, Ryan, I think that, with the, I've done some of the Anthony Williams programs before with the 369, the liver rescue, and the heavy metal detox, smoothies and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, there is some stuff in there that from a biological standpoint and stuff was kind of new.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, for the most part and stuff, I think I was fairly familiar with most of what you talked about today. So it's good information because I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't understand how important the liver is, you know.
Yep.
And,
And I
like,
know we've talked a little bit about your particular situation, and don't forget that with protein and meat comes fat as well,
yeah,
and a lot of times, you know, that one specific body type where you've got that waste, you're growing, you know, your fat storage is basically like a basketball on your stomach. It's
yeah,
really all around your liver. Your liver is packing that fat in there around your diaphragm and all those things, and that's where it starts. So switching to, like you said, we'll get into it more next week on ways to cut back on some of that fat and to do a liver rescue morning, or even, you know, change up some of the smoothies and things that you have to get to that ideal, you know, composition of food where you have like 15% or less of fat, and you don't always, you know, keep burdening the liver.
yeah. I was going to start the 369 program again this week, you know, but
Now that you're
I was
traveling.
supposed to I was supposed to meet with Carl and Mark for breakfast on Tuesday. It ended up being on Thursday, and then I was going to start it on Friday, and then Lisa called me Thursday night and said, "Hey, would it be possible for you to be in Waukesha on Monday?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that and stuff." So then I thought, well, I'll start it when I get back, and then it was, well, the kids' birthdays on Sunday. So and you know, so right now the plan is on the 12th, after the kids' birthday parties and stuff, and I'll go back to 369.
So
Yeah,
the key there is to remember it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So,
yeah,
you know, having like we said, having your lemon water in the morning, and the more I'm looking into some of Anthony's his work, we started out with 16 ounces in the morning, but it seems like having even more, you know, getting up to 32 ounces. So this morning I filled up my entire cup, which is 32 ounces with lemon water, and I'm still working on it. But that's, you know, it's not an all or nothing. So like we said, having some more, you know, fruit smoothies in the morning and things that don't contain fat right away, so your liver doesn't have to go into bile production, and, you know, pushing meat to the last meal of the day, or maybe going days without any meat at all,
yeah.
is a possibility as well. So
Yeah, as long as I can have fruit, I can go with meat, you know, in the evenings or one meal a day, or even go without it at all, depending on what we fix. I mean, I've fixed some of that soup like Rachel fixes with the potatoes and the vegetable broth, and you know, I'll throw green beans or throw broccoli and stuff in with it, and you know, garlic and onion. I'll have that for supper, you know, and won't have any meat at all. But if I can't have the fruit in the mornings, I guess I'm too much of a traditionalist. If I can't have the fruit in the morning, then I want eggs. Eating salad or, you know, vegetables in the morning for breakfast, just it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't compute, I guess. So, you know, if I mean, I can go out for breakfast and stuff and have, you know, I mean, I'll get uh, a veggie omelet without any cheese or anything in it and stuff, you know, and have that without any bread or potatoes or anything to go with it and stuff, you know. I mean, I'm okay with that. But, you know, if I can't have fruit, then again, I'm looking for eggs or, you
yeah,
know, the chicken sausage or something in the morning. Uh, but
more Alkagizer, right? Have some more Alkagizer.
Yeah, appetizer for breakfast is I don't know. I mean I do the lemon water, and I usually do probably more than 16 ounces, but I drink lemon water before I go for my walk in the mornings, and then when I come back, I fix celery juice and drink
Mm-hmm.
about 16 ounces of celery juice, and then I wait a little bit, and then I'll have a breakfast. And it's usually, you know, chicken or turkey sausage and a couple eggs. Or if I'm, you know, in summer and having fruit, then I'll have, um, a little bit of cantaloupe and watermelon or berries or something for breakfast, and I'm okay with that. Or smoothie,
Yeah.
I really like the blueberry smoothies, but it's so I don't know. Uh, I think the 369 program is the first 3 days and stuff is not bad. Um, the second the first 3 days ain't bad. The second 6 days aren't unbearable because of the apples and the fruit and the dates and stuff that you can have. Um, to kind of you look forward to that after having spinach soup and that salad with that orange juice dressing and stuff on it and stuff. The apples and the dates kind of help fill in the
Yeah.
take the edge off of it a little bit. So, but yeah, I and again, when I was on that, like I think I told you before, when I did the 369, I mean, any aches and pains and joints and stuff I had, I mean, it all went away.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's
Yeah. Well, we'll dig into more of the 369 during our next class and get
okay.
into how we can reverse this process and take
Yeah.
care of the liver. So thanks for sharing.
All right.
Until next time, we'll see you guys on the Facebook group, but enjoy, and we'll talk to you again later.
All right, Ryan. Take care. Have a good day.
Yep. We'll see you.